supply video, and we're going to do this. We'll go through everything that we need. The only thing that I'm not showing here, or the items that I'm not showing, of course, are a sewing machine, although you can see sewing machine, ironing board. Those are the big things that you will definitely need. So let's go through the small things. Okay, so here we go. The first and most important is going to be your mat, and you can probably see some of that right here, but this is an Omni-Grid mat, and it's a self-healing mat. They're a little bit expensive, so use a coupon if you can, maybe Joann's, and maybe the camera guy, maybe we'll re-show this mat here at the end, but this one is 35 inches by 23 by 35. That is the minimum I would get. I don't think that anything smaller is going to be very helpful, especially when you're trying to even up fabric and so forth. And then a ruler, at least with eighths. I think some have 16ths. I think I have one that had that, but eighths are fine. And this is a Fiskars ruler. So an Omni-Grid mat, Fiskars clear ruler. Best Press is what I use for starch, and I starch my pieces pretty well. It keeps them nice and smooth and crisp while you're pinning them and so forth, and I really like Best Press. It does not stain, it doesn't clog. You can use it on all fabrics. It doesn't flake off, it doesn't spot, and I really like this for a starch. Rotary cutter, forgot to say that. With the mat and the ruler, you're going to need a rotary cutter, and probably get yourself another blade or two. Again, you know, if you get it on sale, it's not too bad, but still a little bit expensive, but worth it. Now, I was telling you in the intro video, I think I told you, I made my first quilt with scissors and a ruler, and it worked fine. It was a little baby quilt, but that will take really a long time. You really need a rotary cutter if you want to do efficient work with your fabric. A little gauge, a little sewing gauge. This helps you to continually check maybe your 1/4 inch seam, or you know, just how you're doing with your, you know, the right size. It just keeps kind of everything in check. You can also measure your sewing machine 1/4 inch with that. A stitch ripper, and I like the Clover products. They're pretty nice, but you're definitely going to need a stitch ripper because you will have to rip out. And believe me, I mean, it just happens, so no big deal, but get yourself a stitch ripper. Magnetic pin holder, very important, because really I can toss my pin down where I'm sitting without taking my eyes off of my quilt, and it hits my magnetic pin holder every time. Get two, one for the ironing board, one for your sewing machine, if you can remember that. Little pair of embroidery scissors. These are for my heirloom sewing actually, but they have a blunt head, so you can't accidentally cut your fabric. They help anyway. You won't accidentally snip your fabric in half, so these are very nice. Safety quilting pins. These are odd shaped. They have like a bent shape to them, and they're very nice. They're not like regular safety pins. And the quick clip is what I recommend. When you go and you pin your quilt, when we're basting it, okay? When we're basting it, and you're going to pin like this, right? Well, it gets pretty tedious having to close and open those pins. And I'm not a big like gimmicky tool person, but this thing, when I first saw it, I thought, you know, I don't know if it'll be helpful. I use it every time I quilt. It will close a pin very quickly, and it will also open the pin. It has little grooves in it, and it will pull it open. And this is called Quick Clip, Paula Jean Creations. Okay, Quick Clip. Very helpful. It makes pinning and unpinning very fast. Okay, so we covered safety pins, marking. I like the Clover water erasable marker, and I have used this on heirloom fabrics, and I'm telling you, it comes right off. It does not stain. It just takes a little bit of water to get it off. It's blue, and it's a thick marker, okay? And it works very well, Clover, and it's water erasable. You can get this in Joann's, I believe, and I think I paid, I might have paid $5 for it, so. This is a cuticle stick, and this is the most helpful tool. It's the cheapest one in your sewing box. It will help hold your pieces together as you put them under the presser foot, okay? Very cheap. Get yourself a whole 10 pack for like 50 cents or something. They're great. This is a temporary adhesive spray, and so is this. This will, when we go to put the quilt together, we'll just kind of spray it a little bit to hold the pieces in place while you pin. So this is 505, and this is Sulky KK 2000. Either one of these. Okay, I like both of them. And let's see. Cotton thread. We are only going to use cotton thread. Some quilters might not think anything of polyester, but I was taught very early on that it can eventually break if it's really cheap. Like Coates and Clark is very cheap thread, and I don't know if I would do that. Mettler, Gutermann, I think these are fine. And you want to do the, let's see, do I have anything else to tell you about that? Just 100% cotton, okay? And for piecing, and you can use colors for, you know, doing top stitching if you want to show a color. And there's also cotton hand quilting thread. We won't get into that right now because it's just really all the same thing. If we do hand quilting on top, then we'll show that when we do it. This is an open toe foot. So for quick designing, marking, or doing a design on your quilt without marking is what I mean. You can stipple. You can stipple the top of the quilt. It's very pretty. It kind of goes around, and it's free motion. It's a free motion foot. So for your sewing machine, if it's possible for you to get one, it's a good investment because you can quickly do a little design on your quilt without having to mark it, and it's pretty. I have a video up on YouTube of some stippling. I think I need to update it a little bit, but anyway, it just allows free motion when you drop your feeds on your machine, and you can just go around and around and around. It makes a real pretty little thing. I don't know if you need one or not. Somebody had commented on my YouTube that you don't need one, but I've never done it without it. So anyway, I would suggest the foot. This is a walking foot. It's an even walking foot. So basically it hooks on to the, usually the screw that goes up and down that makes the needle go up and down. And it's just going to walk your fabric through evenly. It also, it usually comes with these little guides, and the guides actually are for grid quilting, and it keeps your foot even. I'm not sure if we'll be using that. We'll see. But anyway, the even walking foot is a good investment also. Not necessary to complete this course or complete a quilt, but it does help. Okay. And invisible thread, and I can't find my spool of it, so you really can't see it. This is what we would probably use to quilt the top, so you'll be able to see the design but not the thread, and that helps if you're not very good at keeping the stitches from overlapping, or if you do stippling, sometimes you'll be going around in a circle, and in stippling you're really not supposed to cross over. It's not a held rule, I don't think, but you know, you just kind of, you do these little things like this, and if you stop, sometimes it looks like the stitch got misplaced. And if you're using invisible thread, nobody's really going to see it. So it's a good investment, a little bit of invisible thread. Okay. And I don't think you really need this, but it is, if your machine doesn't have a 1/4 of an inch 1/4 of an inch. Mine has actually a stitch, so all I have to do is set my machine to a 1/4 of an inch and it will do that. This is a presser foot that helps, and so your machine might come with a foot that is a 1/4 inch foot for quilting, and you know, I think it's okay. I don't know if I would spend the money on it because I show you how to actually mark your quilt. Mark your mark the place, you know, to figure out your 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so that I believe is it. And okay, if you have any questions about supplies, just give me an email, or if I've forgotten something. But Jordan, let's look back a little bit. You think you can show the whole mat real quick? Okay, and before he shows the whole mat here, let's talk a little bit about fabric and batting, which I forgot to mention. So the batting is the layer that's going to go between your backing and your quilt top. I like the thin, more traditional 100% cotton. It makes it easier to hand quilt, machine quilt, and it gives it a nice traditional look. Plus it doesn't have a lot of loft to it. If you get one of those really fat battings, sometimes it will have fiber migration, which means that you'll be able to see a little bit of lint coming up through the quilt top, and it gives it kind of a fuzzy appearance. So it's kind of cheap. Don't use the inexpensive batting or the really fat batting. This is another 100% cotton Mountain Mist, and this one is thin too. It also gives that traditional kind of look. And the fabrics that we're using, I'm using it's 100% cotton fabric. They're really nice. Thimble Blossoms puts this out. I've used Riley and Blake, and try not to get too cheap with the fat quarters. 100% cotton is really what you would like with that. And then, so now we can see the rest of the table here, and this is your mat. You really want to get the 35 by 23 is what this one is, 36 by 24, sorry. And you don't want to go any smaller than that. I don't think that would be very useful when you're trying to even out fabric, especially if you're not buying in fat quarters, but only, you know, 1/4, you know, and you have a whole yard of it because you loved it and you need to just cut off a 1/4. So there you go. If you have any questions, just go ahead and contact me, drop me an email, and we'll get it answered for you.